Our story begins with Robert Grenier, a simple, quiet, and peaceful man who has lived alone since losing his father at a very young age. This loss forced him to leave school and his education, to work and become financially independent. His journey was a harsh, solitary one, with no guide or companion to show him the way. As Robert grew up, he one day met Gladys in a church. She was a beautiful and strong-willed woman with self-confidence and a love for independence. Robert was instantly captivated and began frequenting the church just to see her. They connected, and the attraction was mutual. Within 3 months, their relationship blossomed. They became a couple, sharing every detail of their lives, bound by terrible chemistry. A few months later, the couple was blessed with a baby girl, a delicate, miniature version of her mother's beauty. For the first time, Robert felt his life had value, and that fortune was finally smiling on him after constantly hindering his happiness. However, Robert's joy was incomplete. His work as a logger and railroad laborer was physically exhausting and forced him to be away from home for long periods. Robert worked for a company that directed him to different locations frequently. Dealing with this company was brutal. Anyone who disobeyed orders or failed to perform perfectly was simply disposed of. Robert once witnessed a colleague being abruptly taken away and thrown off a high bridge. Robert continued to move from place to place. When his assigned period was over, he finally returned to his wife, who welcomed him with immense longing after his long absence. Robert checked on his daughter and expressed to Gladys how difficult life was without them. Gladys reciprocated, assuring him that the house was dark and lifeless when he was gone. Robert handed over the money earned from his strenuous months of work, thankful that his efforts were fruitful. He felt that the time he sacrificed was worth it because he provided well for his wife and daughter. Nothing was more important to him than seeing them happy and secure. Gladys celebrated Robert's leave. They spent a few days together in a warm, family atmosphere, trying to maximize their time before his next departure. Gladys set up a fish trap, and they took a commemorative photo with their daughter. Soon, the break ended, and Robert was back to traveling from state to state and job to job to earn money. At work, Robert encountered a constant rotation of diverse colleagues. Among them was an extremely introverted man who worked with him for 2 months without exchanging a single word. One day, a stranger arrived in the forest, asking if they knew a man named Sam. Everyone fell silent, and the man repeated the question. Suddenly, one of Robert's colleagues ran away at top speed, revealing he was the frightened, fugitive Sam. The stranger chased him, shot him, and ended his life. The killer apologized to Robert and his comrades, explaining that Sam ran because of a very racist reason. Sam's brother had dark skin. The man left coldly, and the workers calmly resumed their posts. They were used to the rampant crime and danger inherent in their profession. Later, Robert befriended an older, highly skilled colleague named Arne. Arne was a man of unknown origin. No one knew anything about his background. Arne proclaimed, "I was born to cut summer trees," and that he performed best when the temperature exceeded 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, over 37 degrees Celsius. Arne revealed his expertise. When it rained, he strategically roofed some massive trees, leaving them for a strong wind to topple, making them easier to break and utilize the wood. Robert and the others realized Arne's vast, long-standing experience. At night, while the workers prepared for sleep, Arne sang improvised songs, much to the annoyance of his companions. Robert was the only one drawn to Arne's calm and contemplative nature. He asked him, "Does God punish us in our lives for our bad deeds, especially since their lives are short and featureless?" Arne answered wisely, "Not necessarily. Plenty of evil people have lived good lives, and plenty of good people have suffered. It's not a rule that applies to everyone." Robert was comforted by his insight. The work pressure intensified. The biggest danger was a falling tree, which often ended a worker's life. Robert stated that a skilled worker could avoid the fall, but sometimes the estimation is wrong. Arne decided to honor the souls of the deceased colleagues by placing their boots in the tree as a witness to their existence in this world. The company profited from the workers because they specifically needed the wood from fir trees for the war effort. These massive trees were abundant in those forests, meaning their job might continue forever. Workers were not allowed to rest. The only permitted option is resignation, but they wouldn't find a replacement job with the same pay, forcing them to return. The company graciously granted them very infrequent vacations. Robert's vacation finally arrived, and he returned to Gladys and his daughter. He realized how long he had been gone. His baby daughter had grown, learned to walk, and started talking and playing. He missed these developmental milestones. Robert was thrilled to see her and maximized every minute with his family. Internally, however, he was sad about his situation. Seeing his family was a rare event, and there was a high probability he might never return from one of his trips. Gladys tried to comfort him. They went hunting for a deer. Gladys suggested working with him to help with laundry and other tasks. Robert firmly refused, arguing that women cannot endure what they see, and they cannot risk bringing their daughter to such a dangerous place. Gladys assured him she was just thinking aloud. Days later, Robert tried to find a lighter job closer to home. He worked for a while in manual labor and avoided his old job. However, after the war, the wages for all jobs became meager. Their financial situation drastically worsened. Gladys suggested turning their acre of land into a farm, perhaps borrowing money to buy a horse for work. They both realized these ideas wouldn't generate enough money quickly. Robert was forced to return to his old job because, despite its difficulties, the pay was reasonable compared to others.
Tragically, a tree fell on his friend Arne. It didn't kill him, but it caused complete memory loss. A short time later, Arne passed away. Robert was deeply affected by his loss, as Arne was his closest companion at work. Robert's next vacation arrived. He took the train back to the city, but was shocked. The entire city had burned down, and his house was completely destroyed. Robert collapsed and entered the burnt city to search for his wife and daughter, but found no trace of them. He understood that they perished in the fire. From that moment, Robert lived a life that was too quiet and too gloomy. He returned to the solitude he lived in his entire life. Despite seeing the destruction, a small hope remained, that they survived the fire and were still alive. He decided to work in the same city, hoping to encounter Gladys and his daughter. Robert began to hear their voices and see their apparitions. He was nearly driven mad by their absence and the inability to accept his daughter's life ending so young without a proper farewell. One day, Robert met an acquaintance from the city who brought him food and went deer hunting with him. When Robert saw the scene, he remembered Gladys hunting, and he broke down, unable to control his tears. He realized they will never return. Robert had to continue working even while weeping, because there is no time to cry. On his way, Robert encountered two friendly dogs. He became attached to them as they were the only company he had left. After returning to his old job, Robert met Arne's old friend, a man named Billy. Billy greeted Robert and asked about Arne. Robert paused, deciding to lie and not tell Billy that Arne was dead to spare him grief. He said he hadn't seen him in a long time. Robert asked Billy how he could still work at his age given the job's difficulty. Billy replied that he did simple tasks as it was his only source of income. Robert saw Billy struggling to tie his bootlace and helped him. A few months later, Robert contracted with the Benhai and bought 2 horses and a carriage for $300 on installment, becoming a driver to transport people and goods. During this time, Robert met a girl named Thompson and asked about her origin. Thompson surprised him. "I know you," adding that the people who suggested she ride with him praised him as someone different. Robert thanked her, and they exchanged pleasant conversation. We learned that Thompson was a nurse, hired by the company to work in the American forests as part of timber management and fire prevention efforts. Robert dropped her off, and she thanked him, expressing her pleasure in meeting him. Robert returned home exhausted. When he woke up, he saw Gladys. He was confused and speechless.
Suddenly, the house caught fire, and he saw Gladys fleeing with their daughter, but she did not survive. Robert realized he was dreaming. He was upset by his inability to move past the accident and the uncertainty of whether Gladys and his daughter were alive. He tried to distract himself and left to continue his daily routine. At work, Robert decided to visit Thompson. She welcomed him in and offered him tea. Robert asked how she managed to get a job there. She said she kept looking until she found a contact. While talking, they observed the area where the fire occurred. Thompson noticed Robert's distress and asked if he was there during the fire. Robert revealed his tragedy. His wife and daughter were the ones there. He wasn't there to save them and arrived too late. He told her he sometimes hears their voices and sees their fleeting images. He begged her not to see him as soft or crazy. Thompson smiled and revealed that she lost her husband a year ago, and her life has been stuck ever since. She assured him, "I don't think you're crazy at all," and that she understands everything he felt. She expressed her belief that nothing happens in vain or by accident, that every event has a hidden wisdom, and that their meeting has a reason. At night, while Robert was walking, he found a girl lying on the ground. As he approached, he discovered it was his daughter, slightly older. He quickly carried her home, noticed her broken leg, and attempted to treat it. He stayed awake beside her, hoping she would wake up. Robert woke up to find she had vanished. He realized he was dreaming again, but he couldn't comprehend how the dream felt so real. He even woke up in the same chair. Robert returned to searching everywhere, hoping it wasn't a dream. Days passed, and everything changed except Robert's life, which remained static, as if time stopped only for him. Suddenly, his whole life flashed before his eyes. He remembered all the sweet moments, the solitude he endured, his memories with his family, and his various jobs. The film ends on an open note, leaving us uncertain whether Robert ever found his daughter and wife.